Hello guys, Matthew here and welcome back again to the TechTeak YouTube channel. To move away a bit from your standard brands of graphics cards, today I'll be checking out Palit's more affordable StormX version of Nvidia's GeForce GTX 1050 Ti series. The product box is as simple looking as it can be, there is no pictures or some special features pointed out, just some generic talk about Nvidia's technologies and minimum system requirements. Opening it up, here on the bottom we have some user manuals and optical disc with drivers and software, and that's about it for the accessories. And here's the card itself. Although the GeForce GTX 1050 Ti series doesn't have an official reference design of the cooler, if it could have one, it would probably look like this. PCB and cooler design-wise, it reminds me a lot of the GeForce GTX 750 Ti when it came out. We have this really short PCB measuring just under 170mm in length, and of course that's without the backplate, as this is probably the most cheapest GeForce GTX 1050 Ti you could find on the market. Underneath that cosmetic plastic outer shell you'll get this round and pretty thin aluminum heatsink that goes directly on the GPU and which is being cooled off by this 80mm fan on the top. Thankfully, as you'll see later on, that's more than enough to cool it off, but on the other hand, that's not a surprise since the TDP of this GPU is around 75 watts thanks to Pascal's architecture, so it and components surrounding it cannot get that hot in the first place. Speaking of the TDP, you may notice that there is no additional PCI Express power connectors on the graphics card, which will make this particular model very appealing to users who maybe don't have a stronger power supply. You basically just need to install it into the PCI Express slot on your motherboard, connect your monitor to it, and you're good to go. Simple plug and play, whatever power supply you have, it will work. Lastly, for video outputs, you'll get one DisplayPort, one HDMI, and one DVI-D. Card's specifications, GPU clock and memory speed that is, are also neck and neck compared to the original reference stock clocks, so bottom line you will find no factory overclock in this model. Besides the 768 CUDA cores and 4GB of GDDR5 video memory, you can see it running at 1291 MHz for the base and 1392 MHz for the boost clock. In practice that was of course a bit higher on account of Nvidia's GPU Boost 3.0 technology. I was seeing it go to about 1750 MHz, but mostly around 1700 to 1720 MHz, depending on the game and power headroom. Speaking of that, I've managed to get a pretty solid overclocking result, considering it doesn't have any additional PCI Express power connector, and with these settings here it was boosting to about 1800 MHz on average, which is around 100 MHz lower compared to the other GTX 1050 Ti's, like from MSI Gigabyte or Asus, which I reviewed and which had that additional power delivery through a 6-pin PCI Express power connector, while the memory was basically topping off as per usual at around 2200 MHz. Finally, coming down to the benchmarking results, as I've already concluded in my previous GTX 1050 Ti reviews, this is a very decent 1080p graphics card for gaming, which is capable of pushing without a problem high frame rates within the latest titles and high graphical settings, especially ones which are more optimized. The only difference in terms of performance between this model and others from its series is in the stock and overclocking results, which are a frame or two down on account of the lower GPU clocks in both scenarios. Taking a look at the temperatures, since it doesn't have 0 dB 0 RPM fan feature, the fan is constantly spinning, so under idle I was seeing really low figures compared to models which have that feature, almost equal to the ambient temperature, which was about 2 degrees lower than the 23 degrees Celsius temperature of the GPU. Under Thermax stress test, I was seeing around 50 degrees Celsius with fan speed being at 33%, while playing games set it to about 53 degrees Celsius and 35% of fan speed. Overall, those were some pretty decent results compared to others that I've tested, but you have to have in mind again that the base car clock is much lower, as well as the overall power delivery to the GPU and other components, which would in the end otherwise bump up its TDP. As a cherry on the top, in both scenarios, being it under idle or load, the fan was really quiet during its operation. Although this model maybe doesn't jump out in terms of any special features, it was very interesting to see what it can offer compared to other high-end models of GeForce GTX 1050 Ti series, especially since it doesn't need that additional PCI Express power connector and since it comes in with a lower asking price. That's it guys for this time from me. Thank you once again for checking out the unboxing and review of Palit's GeForce GTX 1050 Ti StormX graphics card. Feel free to give this video a thumbs up if you like it really helps me a lot. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions about the product, and of course, if you would like to see more content like this, you can subscribe to the Tactic YouTube channel, or you can just check out some of my other videos from before.